I wanted to ask you one more question about something that happened today, and then we'll go into that statement and the developments over the last few days, as well as that meeting with Zelensky. I know you put out a post on this I was reading earlier. But I want to go to just another piece of news that came out today. And some people are calling, fear-mongering about World War III incoming. Others are talking about a military purge by Trump, similar to what we saw early on in his second term. So I'll just read out, you probably saw it online. So Pete Hegseth, Defense Secretary, ordered hundreds of the U.S. military's generals and admirals together on short notice and without a stated reason in Virginia at a Marine Corps base. The Pentagon spokesman just affirmed that Hegseth will be addressing his senior military leaders early next week. Now, that's apparently very unusual. You've got a few people concerned. I'll put out a quote by one of the sources that said people are very concerned. They have no idea what it means. And another one, a senior Pentagon correspondent with 30 years experience said, I've never seen anything like this. Have you read about this? What are your thoughts as a former colonel?
Well, I can tell you what I know. There are 800 senior officers coming to this meeting. These are overwhelmingly 4 stars and 3 stars. And I think this has something to do with the extraordinarily excess overhead in the United States Armed Forces. I think if you go and look at the ratio of general officers to men, sailors, airmen, Marines, soldiers fighting on the field, certainly during the Second World War, it was 1 to at least 2,000 or 3,000, something in that neighborhood. And during the entire Second World War, at least until the end, when we sort of gave people honorific promotions, you get an extra star, thank you for coming and doing a great job kind of thing. We had only 7 4-stars. Right now, we have roughly 44 stars. During World War II, the size of the force was usually about 12 million. That's 7 4-stars for 12 million. And right now, I think the force is a little over a million, 1.1 million. And we have 44 stars. That tells you there's something radically wrong. This bureaucratic overhead has grown to the point of absurdity. So I'm sure something in that connection will be discussed.
Yeah, I'm trying to find those numbers. I was reading that same thing. That's my assumption as well. But is there any, is there any validity to the concerns that there could be something more serious from this meeting beyond just a purge or kind of looking for more efficiency within the Defense Department?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what you would point to at this stage. There may be some discussion about changes in other policies. We have enormous numbers of women in the armed forces right now. That's really a serious problem for us. It's something nearing 15 to 20% of the force. There's a desire to reduce that to about 5%. I've heard that number kicked around, which is probably reasonable. There may be some announcement in connection with affirmative action, which is now really no longer, strictly speaking, legal, since the Supreme Court largely overturned it, but we continue to use it to advance non-white people, women and other non-Europeans. Is he going to talk about that? I don't know. I mean, maybe he'll have something to say about where he thinks we're headed in the future regarding Europe and Asia, because I know there's a desire to reduce our profile, particularly in Asia. We have forces in places where they're frankly not needed, haven't been needed for 2 decades. All of that is possible. So all we can do is speculate, Mario. I don't have any firm information on that.
There's one theory that these drone incursions are reconnaissance drones by Russia. I found that to be unlikely. And not sure how useful reconnaissance drones will be over Danish territory, especially now we've got satellite imagery that's pretty advanced. And some people are trying to link those drone incursions that we've seen over the last week to that urgent meeting by Pete Hegseth. I'm guessing by what you said, highly unlikely.
No, I don't think that makes any sense. And remember, we had the U-2 that used to fly these missions routinely over the Soviet Union and other places back in the 1950s. Once we had space-based, reconnaissance, surveillance, intelligence, we no longer needed that. The Russians have it as well. They can find and see virtually everything of importance. The other thing is the Russians have thousands of people on the ground, particularly in Eastern Europe, with cell phones that can call and tell them anything they need to know immediately. I mean, this has been the problem throughout the Ukraine war. Thousands of Russian agents on the ground in Western Ukraine. So I don't think any of that is serious.
I agree. The biggest story and something you covered in your post is the meeting with Zelensky yesterday. Trump put out a post. He said the following: after getting to know and fully understand the Ukraine-Russian military and economic situation, and after seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form. With time, patience, and the financial support of Europe, and in particular NATO, the original borders from where this war started is very much an option. Why not? Massive shift. Now, I do understand Trump's strategy is to always speak a big game. Does not mean that what he's saying is something he genuinely believes that it is realistic. But one cannot deny it is a pretty significant shift in the strategy. What was your initial reaction when you saw this?
Well, two things. First of all, he's now made the transformation from being Donald Trump to Joe Biden #2. That's the first part. Joe Biden never knew what was going on either. I'm not sure President Trump does. He certainly never looked carefully into the war that was ongoing and how it got started and why. I think this is also an abdication on his part of leadership. Here's the President of the United States who is supposed to be leading NATO. And he has said, look, we'll sell you all the equipment you need. Well, first of all, that presumes the Europeans can afford to buy it. That's not exactly clear right now. They've got serious fiscal constraints on them. Secondly, it presumes that we're going to have all of this equipment, particularly missiles, radars, and other things, ready to go at a moment's notice. We're way behind in our production. We're not like Russia. Russia's factories are humming. They have an excess of equipment and capability, frankly, that we don't possess. And then finally, he's saying, I've decided to sit this out. This is your war. You can do what you want with this, and we wish you all the best. Good luck. What? This is the man who claims to be the leader of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization? More than 32 members?